go live?
We'll go live.
Oh,
So count to
gotcha.
like 30.
Sorry.
Count to like 30.
Got
And
to
you're probably
say lights,
good.
camera, action.
Okay, we're live.
Great. So we'll call the Bid Advisory Board meeting to order at 1:07 p.m. on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Oh shoot, I didn't pull up the agenda. Sorry. Give me a second. I do need to let the board know. You did just receive recently, well, within the last 20 minutes, I think, an email from Travis with the current updated bid report. He had sent it to me on the 29th for review, and I dropped the ball and forgot to review it and give the okay for him to send it out with the packet or the link. So you're getting it, the current version, and you received that in the emails. Just
got it. Yes.
I got it too. Got it open.
Okay, great. And sorry, my apologies that you weren't able to review it prior to the meeting. But
well,
yeah.
can I ask a question about the process? Because I think your executive summary was going to be new, and if without having the ability, I mean, we're at the point I think of being able to just approve it. I think we've talked a number of meetings about the recommendations, and so it would just be a matter of, you know, everybody sort of having a chance to read the whole thing and approving of it and making any changes at this point. And without having the ability to do that ahead of time, I'm wondering if I'm not in a place right now that I can go through and read it with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that I could do that before we sort of bless it. I don't know where we are on timing, but if we have to do it today, then we'll do it today. But what I'm getting at is if we could all have an opportunity to read it, you know, on our own, and then meet and just be done with it at that point. That might be a best use of time kind of idea versus trying to go through the thing again today in all of its detail. I'm not sure what you all think about that or what the timing is. I think that's a big question too. If we have to do it today, then I understand. But otherwise, maybe time is better spent on letting us read the final and then coming together.
Yeah, I was thinking they call a
and
special meeting. It doesn't even matter what day. They can just pick a special meeting date.
Well, we have to
Travis,
aside from Zoom.
can you
We got
speak
ours
as to
in
the
afternoon.
timing?
So we have one more meeting,
Or
and let me flip over to calendar. That is the 21st, and then it's in Adrian's hands to get on the calendar.
It's technically, technically I already have it on a calendar, so I was hoping the 21st meeting could just be like emergency or not, because technically I can turn it in on the 19th. So if we could meet the week before or do a special meeting next week so everyone can read it to approve, that would be better.
So just so everybody knows where I am in the process, I believe the content is complete. Where it goes next is tomorrow morning, it goes to graphic design for like its pretty format, but none of the verbiage will change. And then I should have it back by Monday and can send that version to the group. But to me, other than the executive summary, there is no content changes or anything that is going to change in the report as it is that you have, or in the report that you have as of today, unless you request changes.
okay, Travis, and in our next scheduled meeting, if there are any changes that we'd like to make, are you able to make them in that meeting, or they have to be noted and go back to graphics?
No, I can make them in that meeting.
Okay, so given all that information, why don't we do what John Dixon has suggested, since you guys haven't had a chance to read through it, the current version thoroughly. I suggest that we discuss the recommendations and make sure those are finalized in the eyes of the board, and then have Travis make any changes that we might determine that maybe need to be made, have that sent out to us so we can review it. I don't think we need to have a special meeting. We should be able to thoroughly review the version that he sends to us. And then if there are any minor changes we want to make in our next scheduled meeting, we'll have the option of doing that and still make it in time.
Yes, I think though, if we can review the draft
Uh-huh.
and have a special meeting next week, Wednesday, if that's available for everybody, that helps Adrian get
Okay.
it done.
Okay, I'm
fast.
okay with that. How's the rest of
And-
the board feel about next Wednesday?
Wednesday works for me. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's good for me.
We have ARC at 2.
We could probably wrap it up quickly.
Okay.
I could do Wednesday, assuming, I want to make sure we all have enough time to read it. So Travis, did you say you could send it in its pretty format that you get it back on Monday?
I can get it back by Monday.
Yeah. And then so we'll have all of Tuesday to have read it, and then meet Wednesday. That seems good.
And Travis, just to clarify, with the document that we just got, the only new information other than the smaller wording that we've done is your forward from the executive director. Is that correct?
No, the only changes that are there are to the recommendations from our last meeting. So I split that recommendation into 2 as requested. Stand by. I'm just scrolling down.
I think she was
but-
actually referring to the executive summary, which is what I'm writing.
Right. Yes, the executive summary comes from Marcus.
Gotcha. Okay. Great. Thank you.
And that he's going to deliver to me in time to go to graphics tomorrow.
Mhm,
Okay,
by the end of the day today.
Okay, great. That sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Travis, Adrian, I'm having trouble finding the link to the agenda. I'm sorry. It's not in the emails.
It's on the
So-
main planning and building homepage and
Always
meetings
have
and
trouble on the
agendas.
website. So I go to
Yeah.
County
Go
Mendocino.
to mendocinocounty.org, then
Uh-huh.
Planning and Building Services.
Planning and building, where's?
Under government.
Yeah, go to government.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're good.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this website. Planning and building. There it is.
So, yeah. And then on the left,
Meetings and agendas.
yep.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. What? Nope. That's some sort of submission. Oh, here we go. And then bid advisory board.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Okay, we haven't done the roll call yet. I'm so sorry. Let's go and do a roll call.
Cindy Wagner,
Present?
John Dixon, John Glidewell,
Here.
Chair Magdaleno,
Here.
all present.
Great. Moving on to agenda item number 3, matters from staff. Do we have any matters from staff to address?
Just that for the 14th, we do have another meeting. So what time would you like to meet? If we can be brief and you think that any potential discussion and edits for a special meeting can be done in an hour, we're good at 1 o'clock. But there is
I'm good with 1 o'clock.
yeah, for an hour.
1
Can we
o'clock's fine for me.
Okay.
Yes, 1's good.
Okay. And we'll be brief.
Yes.
From
Yep.
1 to 2.
1 to 2 works.
Perfect, thank you. And I do already have all board dates set. I wrote the resolution this morning and the board summary and sent it to County Council for approval. Your annual report will be heard the first time on May 4th as review to the board, and the public hearing will be on May 25th.
Adrian, which of those would you like either Marcus or I to make a statement to introduce the report?
You are both welcome on May 4th and the 25th if you like also. You can do both. But definitely the
It's
4th as
more-
we introduce it.
Oh, I was going to say, Adrian, I mean, isn't it more likely that the Board of Supervisors will have questions on the 25th after they've had a chance to review it?
Well, they're going to get it on around April 19th. So that's why I was saying the special meeting next week is better because they get the agenda item on April 19th to 20th. They'll read your whole report for the first presentation on the 4th. That's when they first see the annual report and they can ask questions or comments. They have the right to make changes and edit your report, reject it or change it, and then it would come back on the 25th for final adoption.
I see. Okay. So
Yeah, I would say-
I'm happy and willing to attend the meeting as long as Travis is present as well on the 4th. So if we both can be sent invites to be present at that meeting,
Absolutely.
please.
Thank you.
Great. Did any other board members want to be present at that meeting? Okay. Hearing none. Any communications received or filed? Agenda item number 4.
No communications.
Okay. Do we have any matters from the public?
No matters from the public.
No telecomment.
Great. Moving on to agenda item number 6, 6A, continue discussion and direction concerning the draft annual report for 2021/22. So I suggest that we finalize and discuss any remaining discussion regarding the recommendations. And rather than go through them, I'll just leave it to board members to address any topics they'd like to discuss.
I can start if that works.
Go ahead, John Glidewell.
Okay, and just because this is the first time I've seen this with the new wording, I thought I'd read out the recommendations actionable by County of Mendocino for 21-22. Since we spent so much time deliberating on them last meeting, it would be good just to have it in our head as we're waiting for the final draft on Monday, and then we can obviously go back and read through them in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, John Dixon, I know that
Go
you
ahead.
don't have a copy of the report with you, so if you can hear this will just be the wording that was included after our conversation last meeting. And this is item B, which is the very last piece of content for recommendations actionable by County of Mendocino 21-22. Number 1, change the following section of the bid ordinance to include, quote, general manager or similar employee designated as responsible for top-level business operations, end quote, in the following sections with the ordinance listed and a link to view the ordinance. Number 2, as an alternate option to the above recommendation, the Bid Advisory Board urges MCTC and the County of Mendocino change the, quote, large, at-large, end quote, lodging board seat to, quote, medium or large, at-large, end quote. This change should be made in the ordinance and bylaws of the Bid Advisory Board and MCTC with a link to view the ordinance here. And then the two other recommendations there are, as previously recommended in the fiscal year 1920 and 2021, the Bid Advisory Board reports, Bid Advisory reports, the Advisory Board asks that the Board of Supervisors direct the County Treasurer Tax Collector to A, revise TOT/bid collection forms, and that as of the first quarter of fiscal year 21-22, it began collecting information on average daily rate and average daily occupancy and average daily rate. And number 4, the final recommendation is, with the knowledge that there is new software solution being implemented, we recommend that the Treasurer Tax Collector work with MCTC Executive Director to analyze what data is available in the new system and how the information should be shared anonymously to MCTC. And that ends those recommendations actionable by the County of Mendocino from us. And I don't have any comments on those. I just wanted to make sure that, John, you were aware of them and in case you had any thoughts. But for the record, I like the way that this was written. I don't know if it was exactly the way what we discussed, but I like how it was interpreted. And so thank you, Travis, for putting them into the report as you have.
Yeah, thanks, John, for reading those. I look forward to reading the report. And for today, that's how I, from what I can understand, how I remember them as well.
Great. Thank you, John Dixon and John Glidewell. I did have one point of discussion regarding Section B, recommendation number 1. And just to be thorough, I'm wondering if we should consider adding verbiage along the lines of general manager or similar employee designated as responsible for top-level business operations who meets qualifications designated in Appendix 4, page 33, unless that seems implied automatically and then therefore would be redundant. But for the sake of thoroughness, I just thought making sure we reiterate that there are qualifications that need to be met and reference them. Appendix 4, page 33.
John, or excuse me, Marcus, I was thinking that too. I think it's implied. It probably would be redundant. That's my position, but I'm happy to, entertain inserting that as well. But I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Cindy, John, or Travis, any comment on the matter?
Looks good, looks succinct, and very similar to what we discussed before.
Yeah, I that is part of the system, period. So I don't know that it's absolutely necessary.
Okay. No, just wanted to get the opinion on that. I presume that as well, that it is part of the system. It's part of the checks and balances that exists. So, so the board is clear. The nominees still need to go from the lodging organizations that are putting forth the nominee list. Nominees go back to the county and then are vetted by the county to make sure that the nominees do qualify, meet the qualifications, and then are also submitted to FCTC for additional review to make sure they meet the qualifications. So, so good. All right, if that is thorough enough for that one. I did have another topic or point I wanted to bring up. I had mentioned in a previous meeting, or I think it was the previous meeting, about also recommending that the TOT and bid forms list the ADR and the ADO by month. So, month 1, month 2, month 3.
We did discuss that, but what we came back to at the end of the the end of that conversation, I should say, was that the 4th recommendation to work with the county treasurer tax collector to figure out what data is available was encompassing of that.
Okay. All right. If the rest of the board feels okay with that one.
Yeah, that was my recollection too. I'm okay with that one.
Okay. Good. Just covering all the bases here. Can we go to recommendations actionable by MCTC? Let's see, A3. So I think that's page 27.
26 on mine, but you guys have a PDF, so I'm not exactly sure what it does.
I opened it up from Word, your Word one, but
Okay.
yeah. So page 26 to 27, section A, recommendations actionable by the county. I'm sorry, by Mendocino County Tourism Commission. Recommendation number 3, that MCTC form an ad hoc committee to investigate and explore any and all possible ways to enhance revenue for tourism promotion. The Bid Advisory Board also recommends the ad hoc committee be comprised of a mix of lodging stakeholders, MCTC board members, county staff, county elected officials, and MCTC staff. I'm wondering if we need to add verbiage to be a little more clear, because I think there was confusion before about whether this is due to COVID or whether this was whether it was not. And I'm wondering if adding some verbiage along the lines of MCTC form an ad hoc committee to investigate and explore any and all possible ways to enhance revenue from tourist promotion to augment funding in addition to the bid funds. You know, some reference that's showing that it's in addition to the bid funds and the county match that's being collected, or whether, you know, I'm being too nitpicky again, and that's clear and implied. Any thoughts from board members on that?
I think that clarity is helpful. There's no reason why not.
Yeah,
So,
I think that clarity would have helped me the first time I read it, just kind of having, being new to it, that kind of clarity would have helped me.
so I think that the change, the first change to this recommendation should be the verbiage as recommended in fiscal year 2020-2021. MCTC form an ad hoc committee. Then we are going to clarify, should that be at the end of the sentence? What are you thinking? And what is the clarification again? Say that for me.
Could it be as simple as to clarify that it's in addition to the bid funds and county match raised, that it's to augment the revenue driven to promote promotion. So it's not to replace it or to replace lost funding. It's to help add to the funding in addition to the bid and match. So if you get
Okay,
the idea of what I'm driving
I
at.
hear you, but that's what it says. MCTC form an ad hoc committee to investigate and explore any and all possible ways to enhance revenue for tourism promotion.
Aside from bid and
Above and beyond, is that what you're thinking? Above and beyond?
yeah, that sounds good. Above and beyond.
Above
Yes, I
the-
like that. Above and beyond bid
promotion
funds and county match.
Above and
What about in addition to?
That's what I was going to say. I like that.
In addition to
Yeah.
to the
is I think what Marcus said the first time, and I liked it.
In addition to the bid funds or bid funds and county match. I mean, hey, maybe one of the things that happens is the county decides to match it 100%. Thanks for the
right.
But anyway, yeah, just so it's clear that it's in addition to the bid fund. So that simple addition at the end, I guess, works if that sounds good to everybody. So to investigate and explore any and all possible ways to enhance revenue for tourism promotion in addition to the bid funds and county match.
Bid assessment and county matching funds.
When I hear that in my brain, Travis, I hear the word existing for some reason. Just throw it out there. In addition to the existing bid funds and county match. I don't know. That's just how it plays in my brain.
No, I like that. Thank you, Adrian.
You're welcome.
High five if everybody likes is good with that.
Thumbs up.
It's a raised hand high five thing.
Okay, so now it reads as recommended in fiscal year 2020-2021, MCTC form an ad hoc committee to investigate and explore any and all possible ways to enhance revenue for tourism promotion, in addition to the existing bid assessment and county matching funds. The bid advisory board also recommends, okay, I need to change that. I don't like how that flows. No, I think it's fine. So then the next sentence is the bid advisory board also recommends the ad hoc committee be comprised of a mix of lodging stakeholders, MCTC board members, county staff, county elected officials, and MCTC staff.
Yep. Good for me. Good for everyone else?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so Travis, now with the sake of consistency, recommendation number 2, should we state when it was originally recommended versus as previously recommended?
1 second. I'm just making sure that I save this document
Sure.
as we're going, so no mistakes happen. Where were you at? I'm sorry, Marcus.
Recommendation number 2, for the sake of consistency, should we, versus saying as previously recommended, state as recommended in fiscal year report, blah, blah, blah.
I kind of liked that I did them each differently.
Okay.
I
And then,
like the first one I did originally recommended in 1920, then as previously recommended, and then as recommended. I don't know.
Okay.
It sounded too same when I did it all the same.
I'm fine with that. It's just the one thing would be if you wanted to reference back to the report that it was originally recommended in, but
I think that's, if I recall right, that's what we talked about it. And you can write it how you like, but I think to be consistent, if we have record of when it was originally recommended, then and documenting it here, if it's not that difficult, I think is what we said, that that could be helpful.
Yes, and in each previous recommendation, I've noted that the fiscal year report that recommendation was made.
I see. It's just slightly, okay, I didn't get that.
I just worded it differently each time I said it.
I'm not seeing that in recommendation number 2.
I'm sorry, say again?
I'm not seeing that in recommendation number 2, the original time it was recommended.
I just added it. Well, oh no, that should have been there as previously recommended in the 2020-21 report.
Is it?
It's
Okay.
It's in mine. It's in mine.
Oh, I gotta open up the PDF versus the Word that you sent me. Sorry. Hold on one second. Where was it today? And then Travis, recommendation number 4, does that one also have the reference of the original recommendation?
Well, that's a new recommendation.
That wasn't from the previous year?
No, that was John Glidewell's recommendation this year.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I was thinking the sales. Wasn't there a sales something recommendation that we? Never mind. All right, you are correct. Okay. I have one other question. It's my last one. Appendix number 3, page 32. Or page 31, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
The term expires are all different. Are they based on when they're sat, or should they be all, if
No, they should not be in order. They're based on when the board approves that member. Correct, Adrian?
Correct.
So like May 1st for John Dixon, last year we had to run right up at the end and get him back, approved for 2 more years. It's not like MCTC board seats where it's on a calendar.
it's when sat and then 2 years from that date?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was my question. I thought maybe it was stated in our bylaws that it's a term of from November to, November to October or whatever. And I wanted to align those properly, but
No, we just try to get everybody in
Mm-hmm.
seated in November so we can start our work in December.
Yeah,
That's
and
where
I think,
November comes from.
and I think the bylaws do say that the terms originally open in November if you can fill out applications in October, but we haven't been able to get new members seated by November as an original term date.
okay. And our bylaws don't say that when they're sat, even if it's in May, that their term actually,
No, it's just 2 years.
it's 2 years
It's
after.
2 years.
Okay,
It doesn't
great.
default to November.
So then heads up for this next year, when the board starts producing the fiscal year report in this coming December.
Are you recruiting yet, Sir Chair?
No, I'm just saying that for example, if I wanted to stay on the board, I would have to reapply this coming October.
Correct.
Otherwise, I'll term out during the middle of the process next time. And who else? I guess John Dixon will need to. No, yeah, John Dixon will need to. Otherwise, well, no, we will be done with the next report by May 1st, 2022, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and he could just stay in that seat till replaced. Anyway, okay, that was all my notes. Do any other board members have questions or areas to address in the report?
Could you just clarify for me, not necessarily with the report, but next week on the 14th, we will come having read the report with any final comments. And then what will we be doing on the 21st?
Well, if we can approve the report next week, then we won't have a meeting on the 21st.
Correct.
Okay,
That's our emergency backup date.
okay, great. That helps. Thank you.
i.e. having a party with donuts.
That would be fun, but I make great homemade cinnamon rolls.
Oh,
So,
taken.
Really, that sounds like a done deal.
Great. Oh gosh, I just thought of one more thing. Sorry, all. I just want to make clear that on page 26, recommendations actionable by the County of Mendocino, recommendation number 1, that this change to include general manager or designated employee does apply to large, medium, and small. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
yeah, we're changing that definition.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that was clear to the rest of the board members. Because there had been discussion of it just being for the large, but
Well, right, I think if it's just a definitional change, then it, without any other, what can I say, any other change anywhere else, then it would imply that it's across the board, right?
yeah,
If there's no other qualifier, is what I mean, right? Then it would have to be across the board.
exactly. That's the easiest way to put it in there and make it clear. And yes, be across the board. And that's, in my opinion, fair. If we're going to open that up to large, it should be an option for medium and small too. So,
I
okay.
think there was an important piece of language in that, and I didn't catch it when John read them, but I think we said and or on the 2 ways of expanding the number of qualified applicants. Was this when you're talking about, but as well, sort of doing an and or on the 2, 2, and 1 idea?
Yeah. So, John, it's the first recommendation is to change general manager or designated employee. Then the second recommendation starts as an alternate option to the above recommendation. So that's pretty clear, that verbiage, right? That's just pick, our recommendation is pick one, not both. Because I think that's important. I think that would be my.
John's original readout of, or sort of recommendation, I remember, was and or, and I was comfortable with that because I don't want to lose it. I think that, I would lean, hang on a second.
Should we read those 2 recommendations again, just for clarity?
Would you like me to?
Yeah, Marcus, why don't you do that? Read number 1 and in its entirety, followed by number 2, so that
they're kind of together.
Yeah, exactly.
So the first 2 recommendations are as follows. Change the following section of the bid ordinance to include, quote, general manager or similar employee designated as responsible for top level business operations, end quote, in the following sections, click here to review ordinance. As an alternate option to the above recommendation, the Bid Advisory Board urges MCTC and the County of Mendocino change the, quote, large at-large lodging board seat to, quote, medium or large at-large, end quote. This change should be made in the ordinance and bylaws of the Bid Advisory Board and MCTC. So they are both listed there, and one says as an alternate option. I guess having read that right now, my concern is that they think we're recommending the first one as a higher priority than the second one. And for me, actually, the second one is more my personal higher priority of change first. But of course, that's just my personal opinion as a board member. We have to decide as a group whether those two seem like equal options to choose or whether one does seem higher priority than the other. Opinions on that question?
And what is the language as it's written right now, the first part of the second one?
As an alternate option to the above recommendation.
Yeah, that's very different than what we talked about in my recollection. John said and or, which means both, well, and or means and or.
Mhm.
And I think that I agree that I would prefer to see it be a 2-2-1 versus changing the language. And we've hashed through all this, but I think in the final end here, we need to all be comfortable with how it's presented.
Mhm.
And I see that they are separate, which is fine. I hear that they're separate recommendations, but I think we should all agree, maybe talk a little bit here, either this week or next time when we look at it, of how we're most comfortable it being presented. Because if Marcus, you and I like the other one first, then, and for me, it would go the other way around. The second one would come first, and the second, we'd swap them around. But if they're equal, then we need to make sure that we say that, like one or the other way. But I think the way it reads now is that it looks like it's the priority to say change of the definition, and then if you can't do that or won't do that, then do the harder thing, which I think is very unlikely, and it won't even get looked at. So can we talk about that? I mean, I'd like to hear everybody else's position on that and maybe the memory and how it was discussed.
We can. I want to clarify one thing though. It's not changing the structure to 2, 2, and 1. The second recommendation. The second recommendation is basically stating that there now be an at-large that can be either medium or large. So I guess the way this would play out is when that seat needs to be filled, the county would send nomination forms to all medium and large lodging to submit potential nominations for that seat. And is that correct, Travis and Adrian?
Yes.
This were to be adopted?
Yep.
So it's in a way not making it 2, 2, and 1, and it's not keeping it 3, 1, and 1. It's creating an at-large that can be filled by both medium or at-large. But yes, if that's clear for everyone, then yeah, we need to decide whether to present these a different way if one looks prioritized over another, and how to do that if that is the case.
Well, okay, I'll make a recommendation then that we review it, and then we talk about it next week. Because trying to wordsmith like this way, I think we've done it a few times and we haven't necessarily gotten there. I think if we look at what is meant to be final and then make comments with it in front of us, that probably be best use of time. So I'll leave it at that until next week, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's too hard to do it without having seen it ahead of time.
Cindy,
And just again, I can't see it. I can't see it where I am right now. I didn't have a chance to print it out, and I'm on my telephone, so it's hard to do it. So I apologize for that.
no worries, John. It's okay. That was my fault for not getting it, responding to Travis and getting it out to you in time. So, John Glidewell or Cindy, do you have any comments on that matter?
I would just say I agree that wordsmithing off call is a wise thing. I understand why it makes more sense to have them separated into two, because they're distinctly different. But I also agree that it does sound like the way it's worded as an alternate option you know, and we can wordsmith that later to just sound like it's more of an equal option. So, and I'm fine with us, you know, taking a look at the language and adjusting that for the next call.
Thank you, Cindy. John Gladwell?
I think that sounds good as well. I think for the record, as we were discussing, this scenario as it's written is written as an or statement, and our conversation was that it be written as an and or. Additionally, for the record, I'm fine with the way that it turned out, but I'm also fine if this board wants to see a little bit more work put in. So if, as John suggests, we wordsmith it on our own and bring back suggestions, and we can discuss and agree to one that better fits how we want to see this come out, then that's great. But I probably won't come back with a suggestion. I think I like it the way it is, but I'm also amenable to other suggestions. So just wanted to add a couple notes here for the record.
Thank you, John Gladwell. I do want clarification from the rest of the board members as to whether this be an and/or just an or. If the board members feel that they're okay with the Board of Supervisors deciding to adopt them both, and I know the wording for that doesn't imply that. It does say as an alternate option, but I just want to know if each board member, if they're understanding of this, that we want the soups to adopt only one of these versus potentially adopting both of them. That's my motivation here, that we present this in a way that they only end up choosing one. We don't want to open the floodgates up too much. And is that every other board member's understanding? Or
that was not my understanding, but I am okay with that direction. Originally, the motion was to include an and scenario where those floodgates could be really open. Mm-hmm. But this is not how I interpret it as being written. And again, fine, totally fine. It's written as an or statement. And if, as we come back next week with suggested verbiage changes that retain that or statement, hey, that's cool with me too.
Sure.
I have a different question. On the first recommendation here, what are the mechanics of it again? Can you just remind me? You just stated that the ballots would go, or who, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, who would vote? Only, are we saying still that in the way it's written, only large businesses would be able to vote, but recommendations could be made for candidates from medium, but only large would be able to vote?
No, the only way that it works is if we make that verbiage change, Sherry's office will mail ballots for that at-large position to all medium and all large properties, and everybody in medium and large votes on it. Otherwise, that's what we talked about last time. We end up getting into a special election that puts seating board members back to February or March rather than January.
Right.
And in what scenario would that happen? It would mean, it seems to me, that what's the term? Before elections happen, there's an original mailing for people to put their name in the hat, right? Correct. So what this assumes is that nobody is either doing that or they're not qualified. So that period has passed. So then it has to open up a second time?
No. This is all in the front, on the front end, John. That basically is changing the structure to this. Two large, if this were to be adopted, 2 large seats, 1 inland, 1 coastal, 1 medium seat at large, 1 small seat at large, and a new seat that's at large that could be either medium or large. Does that make sense?
Okay, so it's not if we don't get if we don't get somebody to step up, it's every time the seat comes up.
Always.
It's large and it's large and medium.
We're
Okay,
taking the at-large seat and changing it to be large or medium. Always forward from here. And so when that seat comes up needing to be filled, then ballots go out to all medium and large for that seat.
okay, I understand.
I like that. Yeah. Okay. And John, did you chime in on whether you felt this should be an and or just an or between the two recs recommendations?
Well, I like number 2 first, so I would put that one first and say, I think and is fair because we want, the whole point of all of this is to get more qualified board members, and I get that. I see, from all sides, I see sort of pitfalls to both potentially, and I think changing this is necessary at this time. We talked all through that, but given all of that, I like the change that we're talking about as a permanent change better than changing the definition of who can put their name in the hat from a property. So I am comfortable, as John says, he's comfortable with doing an and scenario. But my preference would be to put number 2 first.
Okay.
And or rather, and or is what I mean.
Certainly. Cindy, any input on this?
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of play around with it a little bit and see if we can come up with a way to present it where it doesn't have one more weighted than the other. But I guess my question is based on the ones of you that have had more experience historically. I like the idea of opening up the floodgates so that we just have more options on the table, and it kind of answers future questions. If we need to broaden it more, we've already made that opportunity. But I'm also just listening closely to your comments about kind of safeguarding the quality of the person, or just the capability of the person to participate. So I'd love to just take a look at it this next week and kind of think about how to present it in a way that it looks like it could be an and or. I think it not having the history everybody else has, I would probably lean towards the and of making both of them the possibility.
Okay.
The one thing I just want to reiterate to this group with regard to recommendation number 1 and why it's important, just this is my own personal importance, is that John Glidewell is a general manager. And if this change isn't made, there are, we're kind of excluding our own.
I think that's valid. Very valid. But I also think that, when we look at these kind of things, we can't think of current players and current personalities. We have to think about what the potential pitfalls are in the future, and how things could be, could go sideways. And I think let's just all consider that, versus current players. I totally agree. John is a qualified, would be a very good, person to do it if he ever could find the time and everything else he's doing. He'd be a terrific candidate. But I also see the other side of it. So let's all consider that as we look at this. We don't want to exclude anybody, but we also don't want to do anything that could just go sideways. I don't know how else to say it. So I'd like to take some time, as Cindy says, with sort of looking at it, wordsmithing. I think it is important. We've taken a lot of time with this already, and I appreciate everybody continuing to think about it. I think we're close, and we're going to end up with something that's worth the time it's taken. But you make a good point, Travis. I think that it's good to put that in everybody's head as we go away and look at it, of how we want it to look in the end. So thanks for bringing that point up.
Travis and John Dixon, you both made very, very valid points that we need to think about and consider. And for me, I like I like small moves when it comes to governance, and so I'm leaning towards an or. But I think the board members, I would just say this, consider whether you want it to be want to recommend and or just or, and then and think about how the wording for that would go. So we can discuss it next week, the specifics of it next week after we've had some time to think about it. So great. Was that a high five, John, or a raised hand? Probably well.
Oh yeah, no, it was high five.
Okay. Okay, so any other questions or discussion on the current bid report? Hearing none, we can move on to agenda item 6B, approval of the draft March 17th, 2021 minutes. Looking for a motion to approve those minutes. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion regarding those minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7, matters from the advisory board. Do you have any matters from the advisory board?
I have one important one. When Cindy makes her cinnamon rolls, will there be batches that contain different flavors? What are we looking to expect here, Cindy?
Wow,
Nuts,
actually,
raisins.
thank you for
Yes,
asking.
we need to know.
No, I kind of think that keeping it simple makes it best, and you'll appreciate it the most. And so I'm sorry that they're not gluten-free, they're not sugar-free, they're not fat-free.
They're just
They're full of fun and full of deliciousness. So just let me know when we can do that, and I'm happy to make them for you.
Well, things are opening up a little bit. Is there any possibility that we can go back to meeting in person? Or for the sake of convenience, do we want to just keep the Zoom for the next meeting?
Probably do Zoom for the next meeting. I don't know that I could get all of us in one room. I think I can fit 4 in here. So we could have like Marcus, Travis, and Angie and I in here, but we would still have to connect with some people in Fort Bragg. And I have to say, my Fort Bragg office is more touchy than Ukiah. So I don't know that I could get you in over there. I'd let you all come here if I had a bigger room, but I think next week is Zoom.
Let's keep
But
the
maybe,
Zoom. We'll try
yeah,
to find
maybe
another
we
time.
can do an end of the year, like summer get together toward Fort Bragg area or Willits or somewhere halfway for all of us. Or Boonville. Let's go Boonville side. That's kind of
Yeah.
halfway.
Great. All right. Sounds good.
So the
Any
other
other-
part of the question is, if it's summertime and it's hot in Boonville, does the frosting melt?
Well,
Bring ice cream.
Actually, keeping it delicious and simple, I don't put frosting on mine, but I think you'll find you're gonna like it just as much as not having frosting.
Ooh. Bold
Very good.
statement. Challenge accepted.
And there's a great place for coffee over there, so coffee and cinnamon rolls are a must. I drink a lot of coffee. Lots. Lots.
Is the
I would
coffee
agree.
related to the hotel? Is that Paisan?
There's that one that I always go to in Boonville. It has the empanadas.
Last one.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that, but I actually come from a tea culture, so I'll bring some imported British teas as well.
There we go.
Oh, Cindy, I'm a tea drinker. Every day I got my English breakfast here in my mug. So maybe you and I can
Hey.
break off and have some tea.
Hey, there you go, John. I've got some fun stuff imported from England I'll bring.
Ooh.
Wow.
Well, since this might happen in Boonville, I might just have to host at the hotel out in our courtyard or in the garden. So we have tea and coffee. So
Oh, I'm there.
we're gonna have-
I love
Sounds
it. I love traveling meetings.
Yes.
Traveling meetings, so we can pick any day.
great.
So do we need to make a motion for this, or do we just roll with it.
Make it a standing necessity for all future.
Yeah. I'm done now. Thank you.
All right, great. Any other matters from the advisory board? Hearing none, I'll move to adjourn. So
All right.
we're adjourned, right?
Got
Thank
a
you.
motion from Dixon
Seconded.
and Glenn. Got it.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Thank
We'll see you on the 14th.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
next week.
Bye
See you
bye.
next
Bye.
week.